I was an obstetrician. After being reincarnated, I swapped my husband and our sponsored student's embryo with a healthier one during an IVF procedure. In my previous life, the student's in-laws had demanded she conceive before marriage to prove her fertility. Desperate and fearful, she begged me to perform a secret IVF procedure. I agreed, blinded by pity and my trust in her as part of our family. After multiple failed attempts due to the poor quality of the sperm donor she provided, she couldn't sustain a pregnancy. Her grief turned into rage and she accused me of malpractice. Publicly, she claimed I falsified my credentials, intentionally caused her miscarriage and played God with her life. I thought my husband would defend me, but he stood against me in court, accusing me of practicing medicine illegally. My world crumbled as I was fired from the hospital, stripped of my license and sentenced to life. Chapter 1. I was an obstetrician. After being reincarnated, I swapped my husband and our sponsored student's embryo with a healthier one during an IVF procedure. In my previous life, the student's in-laws had demanded she conceive before marriage to prove her fertility. Desperate and fearful, she begged me to perform a secret IVF procedure. I agreed, blinded by pity and my trust in her as part of our family. After multiple failed attempts, due to the poor quality of the sperm donor she provided, she couldn't sustain a pregnancy. Her grief turned into rage and she accused me of malpractice. Publicly, she claimed I falsified my credentials, intentionally caused her miscarriage and played God with her life. I thought my husband would defend me, but he stood against me in court, accusing me of practicing medicine illegally. My world crumbled as I was fired from the hospital, stripped of my license and sentenced to life in prison. There, abandoned by everyone I had ever trusted, I lost my mind. The day I died, slamming my head against the cold, unyielding wall, was supposed to end my suffering. But death revealed the truth. The poor quality sperm, it had been my husband's all along. He and the student had conspired against me, their affair predating her pleas for help. The IVF procedure had never been about her future marriage. It was a calculated trap to ruin me and take everything I had built. They succeeded. My downfall handed them more than $1 million in compensation, my villa and every piece of property I owned. And now, in this life, I won't let them win again. When I opened my eyes again, sunlight streamed through the sheer curtains of my bedroom, casting warm, golden patterns on the wooden floor. The faint scent of jasmine lingered in the air, a reminder of the diffuser I had always kept by the bedside. My chest rose and fell as I inhaled deeply, the sensation foreign, yet achingly familiar. I was alive. The realization hit me like a tidal wave as my gaze landed on the antique mirror hanging above the dresser. My reflection stared back, unscarred by betrayal and despair. The room was just as I remembered, filled with the modest furnishings Isaac and I had chosen together before our lives were consumed by ambition and deceit. I had returned. Memories from my previous life surged through me like an unrelenting storm. My chest tightened and I clenched my fists against the soft sheets, the fabric grounding me in this impossible reality. Thoughts dragging me back to that fateful day. Skilled doctor, helping me with an IVF procedure should be no problem for you, right? YOL. Jessica. Her name sliced through my Mrs. Johnson, you're a highly rigged. That voice, sweet, melodic and calculated. I looked up sharply, my heart thudding in my chest. There she stood, our sponsored student of 10 years, her youthful face radiating innocence that I now knew masked pure malice. Her dark eyes sparkled with feigned desperation, her slender fingers clutching at the strap of her worn leather bag as though she were a victim in need of salvation. The air seemed to thicken and for a moment I struggled to breathe, but I forced a smile, steadying my trembling hands. Of course, Jessica, I replied, my voice smooth despite the storm brewing inside me. She didn't notice my clenched jaw or the way my nails dug into my palm. Memories of my past life screamed at me to act, but I held them at bay. If she wanted to play her game, I would let her. Only this time, I wouldn't lose. I glanced around the room again, the ache in my chest dulling as the familiar surroundings anchored me. This was my second chance, a gift. In my previous life, Jessica's story had seemed heartbreaking. She was a student Isaac and I had sponsored, a bright girl with dreams of becoming an engineer. Her hard work and dedication had earned her a scholarship to a prestigious university. She was supposed to be the pride of our household, a symbol of the good we had done in the world, but all of that shattered when she came to me, eyes brimming with tears, begging for help. Her fiancé's family, bound by outdated customs, demanded she conceive before marriage. She claimed it was her only chance to secure her future. I had believed her then. Pity and a sense of duty overrode my better judgment. I bent the rules, ignoring the absence of a marriage certificate, and arranged for her IVF procedure. The failure of those procedures was devastating for both of us, or so I thought. Each failed pregnancy weighed heavily on my heart. The issue, as I discovered later, was the sperm she provided, poor quality, with little chance of producing viable embryos. I had tried everything, adjusting protocols, consulting international colleagues, even investing in newer, cutting-edge equipment at my own expense, but it was futile. No doctor could have made it work. When I finally refused to continue, Jessica's sorrow turned into fury. The sweetness in her demeanor vanished, replaced by venomous accusations. Dr. Johnson, the head of obstetrics, not only falsified her credentials but is also an incompetent doctor who deliberately caused my miscarriage. She screamed in the hospital lobby, loud enough for everyone to hear. Her words echoed in my mind. Even now, I remembered the icy chill that gripped me as I watched the nurses and patients whispering, their eyes filled with doubt and disgust. But the deepest wound came from Isaac. "You can't even have children yourself, you're a barren woman. And now you've gone and killed Jessica's baby," he had shouted in court, his voice ringing with fury and conviction. My breath hitched at the memory, the betrayal cutting as sharply now as it had then. My husband, my partner, had turned against me, testifying that I had practiced medicine illegally, providing evidence that painted me as a monster in a white coat. The media had descended like vultures, plastering my name across every headline. Heartless doctor ruins lives. Infertile woman accused of malpractice. Quack obstetrician causes tragedy for aspiring mother. The hospital where I had poured my life's work into was vandalized, its windows shattered and walls defaced with hateful graffiti. And me? I had been reduced to nothing more than a target for the public's rage. Online forums buzzed with comments that called for my death. "She deserves to rot in prison. She's a killer in a doctor coat. Doctors like her should be banned for life. No, better yet, jailed." I had lost everything, my career, my reputation, my freedom. And as I stared into the cold, unfeeling walls of my prison cell, I lost my will to live. Chapter 2. Because there was no official documentation of the IVF procedure, I was convicted of illegal medical practice and sentenced to life imprisonment. The courtroom had been cold and unfeeling, the judge's gavel striking down my fate with a finality that echoed in my soul. Prison was worse. The damp, suffocating cell walls bore silent witness to my despair. In the end, unable to bear the humiliation, betrayal, and the relentless voices that called me a murderer, I lost my mind. I could still feel the rough stone wall pressing against my forehead, the sharp, blinding pain as I slammed my head into it over and over. Blood had sprayed across the floor like crimson blossoms, staining the gray concrete with my final act of desperation. My lifeless body wasn't discovered until dawn, cold and contorted in a puddle of my own making. The memory made my hands tremble. My breath hitched as I forced myself to focus on the present. "Mrs. Johnson." Jessica's voice pulled me back to reality. Her fingers gripped my arm, the touch cold despite her outward charm. When I turned to face her, her lips curved into a smile that didn't reach her eyes, a smile Elle now recognized for what it was. "You're the head of obstetrics at Baywood Hospital," she said sweetly, her voice dripping with false sincerity. "You can figure out a way to do the IVF procedure even without a marriage certificate, right?" I swallowed hard, my mind racing. The last time, I had faltered under her manipulative pleas. This time, I straightened my posture, planting my feet firmly on the ground. "No." The single word left my lips like a bullet. Jessica's eyes widened, her perfectly rehearsed expression faltering. For a moment, the mask slipped, revealing the surprise and irritation she had so carefully hidden. "What do you mean, no?" she stammered, her voice laced with disbelief. I didn't answer right away. Instead, I slipped my hand into my pocket, my fingers brushing against my phone. Without a word, I pressed the record button. My gaze locked onto hers, sharp and unwavering. "You want to cut corners?" I said, my voice clear and resolute. Performing an unauthorized procedure is illegal. I will never agree to it. I took a deliberate step back, putting more distance between us, and continued in a calm but firm tone. To undergo IVF, you must have a marriage certificate. Both spouses must be present and the verification process must be completed. BEF. Down her cheek, she clasped her hands together, leaning in as though her proximity might sway me. If there were any other way, I wouldn't be begging you like this. I sought you out because I know how skilled you are. The sight would have melted my heart once, but now it filled me with nothing but icy contempt. Her act was flawless, innocent, vulnerable, and utterly false. In my previous life, I had believed her lies. I had been blinded by my desire to help and had walked straight into her trap. This time, I wouldn't let history repeat itself. A cold laugh escaped my lips. Jessica froze, her tearful expression wavering. What kind of true love, I said. Slowly, my voice laced with irony, demands that a woman prove her fertility before marriage. I straightened, my expression hardening. I'm done wasting my time with you. Just as I was about to usher her out of my room, the distinct click of the front door lock echoed through the house. I froze, my gaze drawn to the entrance as it swung open. Isaac stepped inside, his familiar scent of cologne washing over me. He stopped short, his gaze flicking between Jessica and me. His flicking weir brow furrowed, but before I could say a word, he smiled at Jessica. What's going on? He asked, lightly, his tone far too casual for the tension in the room. CA and me. Jessica turned to him, her face lighting up with relief. Mr. Johnson, she exclaimed, her voice trembling with emotion. Mrs. Johnson doesn't want to help me with the procedure. She's saying it's illegal without a marriage certificate. Isaac frowned, turning to me with a look of mild exasperation. Lola, it's just an IVF procedure, he said, his tone soothing yet dismissive. Why are you making such a big deal out of it? Just help Jessica out. I've met the guy, he's a good kid. My stomach churned as I watched the two of them. Jessica's lips curved into a soft smile, her eyes meeting Isaac's with an unspoken understanding that sent a chill down my spine. In the past, I had been too preoccupied with work to notice the way they gravitated toward each other, the subtle intimacy in their interactions. Now, with my memories intact, it was painfully obvious. They weren't just close, they were partners in crime. No, I said firmly, stepping between them. Rules are rules. Jessica, if you want the procedure done, bring me your marriage certificate or find another hospital. Jessica opened her mouth to argue, but I was done listening. I grabbed her by the arm and pulled her outside. I already said no, and no means no. With a loud bang, I slammed the door shut behind her. Isaac's voice rose behind me, tinged with frustration. Honey, you don't have to be so heartless, do you? Jessica and her boyfriend really love each other. Can't you just help them out? I turned to face him, my chest tight with anger and disgust. The man I had once loved now seemed like a stranger, his betrayal written in every line of his face. Without a word, I grabbed a suitcase and began packing my belongings. What are you doing? Isaac demanded, his voice rising with panic. I didn't answer. My mind was made up. I would leave this house and this man who had betrayed me in my past life. By the time I zipped up the suitcase and headed for the door, Isaac was practically begging me to stay. But I didn't look back. I moved into a hotel near the hospital, planning to wait until things settled down before filing for divorce. However, what I didn't expect was that early the next morning, Jessica showed up at my office with a marriage certificate and her fiancé, asking for a consultation. Chapter 3. Mrs. Johnson, can you perform the procedure for us now? I did all you asked. Jessica stood before me, her smile composed and sweet, but her eyes glimmered with malice. Beside her was a man I had never seen before, tall, well-dressed, but with a stiffness to his posture, as if he were a hired actor playing a role. I stared at them, utterly stunned. They had no intention of leaving me alone. They even went as far as finding someone to pose as her fiancé to continue their charade. My mind raced desperately, searching for a way to refuse them. But just as I opened my mouth, my phone buzzed in my pocket. It was the vice director of the hospital. Lola, he began in a tone that tried to sound casual but carried undeniable authority. Jessica is my Friend's daughter. I know their situation. She has to be pregnant to marry into the family. I gripped the phone tightly, my knuckles widening. This wasn't the vice director speaking, it was Isaac, pulling strings from behind the scenes. You're the best doctor we have. The best in the country, he continued, his voice almost coaxing. You trained abroad, didn't you? That's why I trust you to handle this case personally. I stayed silent, anger simmering beneath my calm exterior. And listen, he added, his voice lowering, I hate to say this, but refusing this case might not look good for you. You're up for a promotion at the end of the year, remember? The line went dead, leaving me no room to argue. My escape route was effectively cut off. I could almost hear Isaac's smug voice behind the vice director's words. Jessica's family wasn't influential. Her father worked as a mechanic in the outskirts of town. There was no way they had connections to the hospital director, much less the vice director. This was Isaac's handiwork, and Jessica's smirk confirmed it. Her lips curled ever so slightly, as if savoring her victory. A plan quickly formed in my mind. If she wanted a child so desperately, then fine, I would give her one. Only it wouldn't be the one she expected. I drew in a steadying breath and forced a smile. Very well. Let's proceed. I'll arrange everything for you. Jessica's glee was barely concealed as I handed her the surgical consent form. She signed it eagerly, her fake fiancé adding his signature. With an awkward flourish, this is the procedure plan. Once you sign, we can move forward. Today, I placed the papers on the desk and handed her the pen, watching her eyes light up. When the time came, Jessica was wheeled into the operating room, her demeanor one of smug triumph. As the anesthesia began to take effect, her fake fiancé hovered nervously by the door before being escorted out by a nurse. In the privacy of the lab, I made my move. Swapping the sperm vial took mere seconds, my practiced hands moving with precision honed over years of experience. The replacement vial, a donor sample of impeccable quality, was carefully labeled and prepped. The rest of the procedure was carried out by my capable mentee, a young doctor eager to prove herself. I quietly left the OR, knowing I had completed my part. Without hesitation, I returned to my office, removed my white coat, and packed my personal belongings. The resignation letter I had prepared sat waiting on my desk. I signed it with a flourish and handed it to the department secretary before walking out of the hospital without looking back. When Isaac returned home that evening, he found the house eerily quiet. The furniture remained, but all my personal belongings were gone. Honey, are you home? His voice echoed through the empty rooms. I waited in the living room, a stack of papers in hand. When he saw me, his expression shifted from confusion to alarm. What's going on? He asked. Wordlessly, I handed him the divorce papers. We're splitting the assets equally. Just sign. He stared at me in disbelief. What? Lola, why are you doing this? What happened? Are you in trouble? If there's a problem, we can handle it together. Spare me the drama, Isaac. My voice was cold, void of emotion. This is happening, whether you like it or not. If you refuse, I'll take it to court. But rest assured, I'll win. For a moment, his mask slipped, and panic flashed across his face. But he quickly recovered, putting on his usual charming act and pleading with me. In my previous life, I would have wavered. But now, the memories of his betrayal and my tragic death hardened my resolve. After a few minutes, he reluctantly signed the papers, his hand trembling slightly. After the 1-month cooling off period, I said, taking the signed documents, Slignity, I'll see you in court to finalize this. I thought I could finally move on, that Jessica and Isaac would leave me alone. But life had other plans. Just as the cooling off period was about to end, Jessica showed up at the hospital in a fit of rage. Her once flawless composure was shattered, replaced by fury and desperation. Dr. Johnson is a quack. She ruined me. Jessica screamed, her voice echoing through the hospital lobby. A crowd quickly gathered, whispering and pointing. Her face was twisted with hatred, her voice cracking as she continued to hurl accusations. Not only did she make me lose my baby, but she destroyed my chances of ever becoming a mother. Her words sent a ripple of unease through the onlookers. Among them were former patients of mine, their own failed procedures fueling their anger. It's the doctor's fault then. She's the reason we can't have children, one woman shouted. the lobby descended into chaos, the voices of the crowd growing louder and more hostile. My students and the hospital director scrambled to contain the situation, frantically calling for security. My phone buzzed insistently in my pocket. The hospital director's voice was tense. Lola, you need to get down here immediately. This situation is spiraling out of control. Chapter 4. First of all, IVF isn't a guaranteed success. My voice was firm, cutting through the rising din of the crowd. Upon receiving the call, I immediately returned to the hospital to address the situation. I straightened, meeting the gaze of each protester. Find me an obstetrician who can guarantee conception under such poor conditions. The murmuring crowd faltered for a moment, their outrage wavering under the weight of reason. Besides, I added, my tone cold and resolute, I resigned a month ago. Rioting here won't change a thing. The hospital lobby was brightly lit, but the tension in the air made it feel stifling. Angry faces surrounded me, their voices growing softer as rationality began to seep in. Some of the more composed members of the crowd started to exchange hesitant glances. She's right, a voice piped up from the back. It was a middle-aged man clutching his wife's hand. No matter how skilled a doctor is, the success of IVF depends on many factors. It's never a guarantee. Another person nodded in agreement. And if she already quit, there's no point in causing a scene here. What do you hope to achieve? For a brief moment, I felt a flicker of relief. Unlike in my previous life, where I had been too paralyzed with fear to defend myself, I stood firm this time, unshaken by their accusations. But Jessica wasn't finished. Her eyes narrowed and her lips twisted into a cruel smile. She played her next card, her voice trembling with calculated indignation. Even so, we did everything you asked, but I still didn't get pregnant. Doesn't that mean it's your fault? She cried, her voice cracking for dramatic effect. Before I could respond, she stepped forward and pointed an accusatory finger at me, tears streaming down her cheeks. I can't conceive because of you. And who knows if you're even a real doctor. You've probably broken some rules. That's why I'm still not pregnant. Her words ignited the simmering anger in the crowd. A group of middle-aged women, many of whom had failed IVF procedures themselves, rallied behind her. Their wailing and accusations filled the lobby, turning the atmosphere into bedlam. Jessica dropped to her knees, sobbing hysterically, her face buried in her hands. The dramatic display tugged at the emotions of those watching, both in the room and online. The faint sound of a notification ping echoed through the lobby. Jessica had started a live stream and the viewer count skyrocketed almost instantly. The camera zoomed in on her tear-streaked face as she recounted her fabricated tragedy. She ruined me, Jessica screamed into the camera. She made me lose my baby, and now I never have the chance of ever being a mother. The comments section exploded with outrage. Monster, she should lose her medical license. Justice for Jessica. The mob turned hostile, their anger fueled by the vitriol online. Someone threw an empty plastic bottle at me and it bounced harmlessly off my shoulder. Others began shouting insults, their words cutting deep. I stayed rooted, my expression calm despite the uproar swirling around me. I remembered this moment from my previous life, the same scene, the same accusations, but this time, I wouldn't let them break me. You claim you can never have children again, do you have proof? I asked, my voice steady and unyielding. Jessica's tearful performance faltered for a split second before she pulled a document from her bag with a flourish. It was a laboratory report, one she had undoubtedly prepared beforehand. See for yourself, she snapped, thrusting the paper toward me. It was because of the procedure you performed that I had a natural miscarriage and lost my ability to have children. Her voice dripped with righteous fury and she waved the certificate in the air for the cameras to see. I didn't flinch. There's a significant difference between infertility caused by a miscarriage and infertility caused by deliberately terminating a pregnancy, I said calmly. I caught the eye of my student, who was standing nervously at the edge of the crowd. Have a look at her lab report, I instructed. It won't take long to confirm the truth. The young doctor nodded quickly and disappeared down the hallway, leaving Jessica visibly unsettled. She quickly masked her unease with more accusations. And not only did she violate regulations, Jessica cried, her voice rising again, she's a corrupt doctor who took countless bribes. Her own husband can testify to everything I'm saying. The crowd turned to look as Jessica dragged Isaac out of the throng. He straightened his jacket and stood tall, his expression smug. "I'm Isaac Johnson," he announced for the cameras, his voice filled with false gravitas. "I'm Lola's husband, and it's true she's done many unforgivable things." I clenched my fists at my sides, anger bubbling beneath my calm facade. "She abused her power, taking bribes and lining her pockets," Isaac continued, his tone full of righteous indignation. "And to top it off, her credentials are fake, and her medical skills are horrendous. Because she can't have children herself," Jessica chimed in, her voice venomous. "She sabotaged her patients out of jealousy. She ruined my future because she couldn't stand to see someone else happy." Their words echoed in the lobby, and the crowd erupted into shouts and curses. "How can she call herself a doctor? She's a fraud. She's not even human. She's a monster. Lock her up." A cup of cold coffee hit the floor near my feet, splashing brown liquid across my shoes. Someone else threw a crumpled piece of paper that hit my arm. The hospital lobby exploded into chaos. A middle-aged woman, her face twisted with fury, stormed toward me. Before I could react, she grabbed a fistful of my hair and yanked me to the ground. Pain shot through my scalp as my knees hit the cold, tiled floor. "Pay," she shrieked, her voice ringing out above the crowd. "Hair and you ruined her life, and now you'll." Around me, the mob surged forward, their anger boiling over into physical violence. Someone tried to pull at my coat, and another even spat at me. For a moment I thought I might be trampled. Then came the sharp, commanding voices of security. "Guards, everyone back off. Stop this, now." They pushed through the crowd, forming a protective barrier around me. Their presence restored a semblance of order, but the hostility in the air was palpable. Shaking slightly, I adjusted my disheveled hair and rose to my feet, my knees stinging from the fall. I refused to let them see me falter. Moments later, the young doctor returned, clutching a file. His face was pale but determined as he handed me Jessica's laboratory report. I scanned the document quickly, confirming what I already knew: she had undergone an abortion. I took out my phone, my fingers steady as I navigated to the recording I had saved. The room fell silent as my voice echoed through the speaker. And the speaker. "Mrs. Johnson, you're the head of obstetrics at Baywood Hospital. You can figure out a way to do the IVF procedure even without a marriage certificate, right?" Jessica's pleading voice filled the room, capturing every desperate word she had spoken. I lifted my gaze to meet Jessica's wide-eyed stare. "Your lab report shows that you deliberately chose to terminate your pregnancy," I said, my tone cutting through the tension like a blade. "You have no one to blame for your infertility but yourself." Her mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. "And as for your claim that L violated medical procedures," I continued, holding up another file. "Here is the signed consent form you submitted along with your marriage certificate. Everything was done by the book." Chapter 5. The evidence was irrefutable. I had prepared for this moment with meticulous care, ensuring that every accusation she could throw at me would crumble under the weight of the truth. Jessica's face turned pale as the damning evidence played out for everyone to see. She's lying," she shrieked, her voice rising in desperation. "You must have fabricated it, every bit of it." But her words lacked conviction, and the crowd began to shift uncomfortably. The tide of public opinion turned as murmurs of doubt spread. "Could she really have set the doctor up?" someone whispered. "The evidence is pretty clear," another replied. Jessica stared at me in disbelief, her lips trembling. How could you have prepared all this beforehand?" I didn't answer her question. I didn't need to. Her panic spread to Isaac, who had been lingering at the edge of the scene. Seeing the crowd's support slip away, he tried to slip away unnoticed, but Jessica grabbed his arm, her nails digging into his sleeve. "Isaac, what do we do now?" she hissed, her voice trembling. Isaac shrugged her off, his face twisted with annoyance. But before he could respond, the dispersing crowd jostled Jessica and she stumbled backward. A sharp cry tore from her lips as she collapsed to the floor, clutching her abdomen. Gasps rippled through the room as blood began pooling beneath her. "Help me," Jessica wailed, her face contorted with pain. "Isaac, call a doctor. My stomach hurts so much." I didn't need to examine her to know the cause. She hadn't allowed her body to properly heal after the abortion, and now she was hemorrhaging. Isaac's mask of righteousness crumbled as panic took over. He dropped to his knees beside her, shouting incoherently for help. Security guards called for a stretcher, as hospital staff rushed to stabilize Jessica. I turned on my heel and began walking away. The cold air from the hospital entrance hit my face, clearing the lingering tension from my mind. But before I could step outside, Isaac's voice rang out behind me. Lola, wait. I turned slowly, my patience already wearing thin. You can't leave, Isaac yelled, desperation etched across his face. Jessica's hemorrhaging. You know she has a rare blood type. He took a step closer, his voice breaking. The blood bank doesn't have any matching supply right now. You have to donate your blood to save her. I stared at him, incredulous. Are you seriously demanding that I donate blood to your mistress? I asked, my voice dripping with disdain. Have you completely lost your mind? He reached for my arm, but I jerked away. Let go of me, I snapped. We're over, Isaac. Once we finalize our divorce tomorrow, we'll have nothing to do with each other. Isaac froze, his face contorting with disbelief. But Jessica, she's dying, he stammered. Please, Lola, for everything we've been through, can't you help her? My anger boiled over. I swung my hand and slapped him across the face, the sound echoing in the now empty lobby. You vile, disgusting creature, I hissed. You think I'm blind? I know about your affair with Jessica. All the lies, the deceit, the filth. And now you have the audacity to beg me for help. Isaac stumbled back, clutching his cheek. Blood trickled from the corner of his mouth, but his eyes remained fixed on me. Lola, I made a mistake, he said, his voice cracking. I never should have gotten involved with her, but Jessica is in critical condition. Please, I'm begging you. I stepped closer, pressing the heel of my shoe into his hand until he cried out in pain. No, I said coldly. You brought this on yourselves. Without another glance, I strode out of the hospital, got into my car, and drove off. In the rearview mirror, I saw Isaac running after me, his figure growing smaller and smaller until he disappeared from sight. As I pulled into the hotel parking lot, my phone buzzed with notifications. I leaned back in the driver's seat, my eyes narrowing. I wasn't done yet. I would keep an eye on the hospital and ensure that they had no chance to strike back. Chapter 6. Jessica lay motionless on the hospital bed, her face pale as the sheet covering her. The stark white walls of the room amplified the sterile chill in the air, but she looked cold in a way that no blanket could fix. The doctors bustled around her, adjusting for lines and monitoring her vitals. She had lost too much blood, and the search for a compatible donor had stretched for agonizing hours. By the time the matching blood supply arrived, she was barely clinging to life. Her breathing was shallow, her once vibrant features reduced to a ghostly shadow. Though she had survived, the damage was irreversible. The severe blood loss, coupled with the complications from the abortion, had devastated her uterus. The finality of it was undeniable. Jessica would never conceive again. Even simple tasks like sitting up or walking would now be fraught with pain and struggle. I watched the scene unfold from a distance, my expression unreadable. They had schemed to destroy me, but in the end they had destroyed themselves. Later that evening, as I sat in my hotel room, I unlocked my phone and accessed my accounts. With a few taps, I severed the financial support Elle had been giving Jessica. It was long overdue. Then, I made another call to my father. His voice carried its usual calm authority as he answered. I informed him about my decision to finalize the divorce with Isaac. There was no hesitation on his part, only firm support for my choice. Barely minutes after I sent the notifications, my phone buzzed with an incoming call from Isaac. His name flashed on the screen, but it was the frantic tone in his voice that struck me. As I answered, Lola, what are you doing? Why did you cut off support for Jessica? You know her family is struggling. She needs money for her graduate school tuition and medical bills. How could you just cut her off like this? I leaned back in my chair, allowing a trace of amusement to creep into my voice. Why shouldn't I? It's my money, Isaac. I'll spend it however I want. And in case you've forgotten, we're no longer husband and wife. What gives you the right to demand anything from me? The silence on the other end was telling, but I didn't stop there. Besides, I added, my voice sharp, I'm beginning to suspect that all this financial aid was just a scam. Didn't you know? The hospital's vice director let it slip that he and Jessica's father are old friends. The silence stretched longer this time. the lies he had spun to manipulate me into performing the surgery. Now, I was returning them to him in full. I thought back to Jessica's background, a poor rural family, where sons were favored over daughters. Her father was an alcoholic, her mother was abusive, and then there was her gambling-addicted older brother. I had pitied her, foolishly believing that I was helping her escape a miserable life. For 10 years I had supported her financially, ensuring she had everything she needed to thrive, but instead of gratitude, she had repaid me by crawling into my husband's bed. At this point, I no longer cared who seduced whom. They were both equally guilty. My kindness had been wasted on an ungrateful snake, and I felt no remorse for cutting her off now. Honey, Isaac tried again, his voice softening. Don't be like this. We're still married, aren't we? There's no need to treat Jessica so harshly. If you're upset about what happened at the hospital this afternoon, I sincerely apologize. I almost laughed at his audacity. Just hours ago, he had stood by Jessica, throwing false accusations at me with righteous conviction, and now, as I walked away, he had the gall to play the remorseful husband. Jessica and it was just a mistake, he continued, stumbling over his words. We were caught up in the moment, but we both trust you. I cut him off, my patience wearing thin. Enough. I don't want to hear another word of your nonsense. You should remember, tomorrow is the last day of our divorce cooling off period. Don't forget to be at the court, I said coldly, my voice devoid of any affection. There was a pause, then a desperate plea. Honey, are you really divorcing me? I thought you were just mad. This is too serious, I can't agree to it. Just wait, I'm coming to find you. I didn't give him the satisfaction of a response. I hung up without hesitation. Even as midnight passed, Isaac never showed up. He was likely still at the hospital, fretting over Jessica. But I no longer felt the sting of disappointment. The sadness and hurt that had once consumed me had dissipated, replaced by a steely resolve. Wasting my emotions on those two wasn't worth it. Their downfall was inevitable, and I didn't need to lift a finger to speed it along. As I sat in the quiet of my room, I thought back to the beginnings of my relationship with Isaac. We had been university classmates, and he had known from the start that I was supporting Jessica financially. Isaac had come from a modest background, while I was the daughter of a well-off family. I had often helped him during our time together, covering expenses when he struggled to make ends meet. After graduation, when he couldn't find a job, it was my father who intervened, connecting him with a prominent lawyer. That lawyer had taken Isaac under his wing, giving him the mentorship and opportunities he needed to succeed. With our support, Isaac had climbed the ladder, eventually becoming a top divorce attorney. Yet, instead of gratitude, he had chosen to betray me. For over a decade, I had misjudged him. This marriage had been a mistake, one that I was finally ready to leave behind. Tomorrow, I would close this chapter of my life for good. Chapter 7. The morning sunlight streamed through my hotel window as I sent Isaac a message. My tone was curt and to the point. Frowny face, see you at the court. Don't be late. By the time I arrived, Isaac was already there, pacing nervously by the entrance. His disheveled hair and wrinkled suit hinted at a sleepless night. He avoided eye contact as we went through the motions of the divorce process. His demeanor, strangely subdued. Unlike the belligerence I'd expected, he complied with every request, signing where instructed and uttering no objections. The finality hit when the divorce certificates were handed over. The clean white paper bore a weight that I hadn't anticipated. Isaac took his copy with shaking hands, but as I turned to leave, his phone vibrated. He glanced at the screen and his face drained of all color. No, this can't be, he muttered, his voice trembling. The certificate slipped from his hands and fluttered to the ground. Fired. I've been fired, he stammered, staring at the notification, as though willing it to change. I paused, watching as realization dawned. The carefully constructed image of Isaac Johnson, a successful and sought-after attorney, had begun to crumble. He spun around and grabbed my arm in desperation, his grip vice-like. Lola, was this your doing? He demanded, his voice raw with panic. Why would you do this? Do you have any idea how hard I worked for this career? Why would you destroy everything I built? I yanked my arm free, stepping back as I leveled him with a cold glare. Worked? Do you really believe your success was your own doing? I said, my voice laced with disdain. How much money do you think my father poured into smoothing your path? How many strings did I pull to get you the opportunities you couldn't earn on your own? You built nothing, Isaac. You owe everything to me, and now you have the audacity to blame me for losing what you never deserved in the first place. Isaac froze, his mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. Before he could respond, another notification pinged on his phone. He glanced at it, and his expression twisted into something between confusion and terror. Place. Jessica can't have children, he whispered almost to himself. I saw the moment the reality clicked in his mind, his disbelief quickly giving way to anger. Without a second thought, he bolted out of the courthouse. I followed at a leisurely pace, curious to witness his confrontation with Jessica. She was still confined to her hospital bed, pale and weak from her recent complications. When Isaac stormed into the room, her face lit up briefly, only to falter at the sight of his fury. Jessica, he shouted, startling her. What the hell is this? You can't have children and you didn't tell me. Jessica shrank back, her frail frame trembling. Isaac, I didn't know how to tell you. Didn't know, he bellowed, his hand slamming against the side of the bed. Do you have any idea what you've done to me? I've lost everything because of you. And now, I find out you're just as useless as she is. Jessica's gasp was audible, her eyes welling up with tears. How could you say that? Isaac, I love you. Her attempt to gain sympathy faltered when Isaac grabbed her roughly by the shoulders and shook her. The slap that followed echoed in the small room, leaving a red mark blooming across her cheek. Love me? Isaac spat. You've done nothing but ruin me. At that moment, I stepped into the room, my heels clicking against the tile floor. Isaac and Jessica froze, both their faces a mixture of guilt and fear. I thought I'd stop by and deliver a little gift, I said, holding out an envelope. Isaac snatched them from my hand, his eyes narrowing as he read the document. You. His voice cracked as he stared at me, shaking the papers in disbelief. This is a lie. You made this up. You think I made that up? I raised an eyebrow. You've been infertile all along. The reason we never had children wasn't because of me, it was you. The color drained from his face completely. He staggered back, collapsing into a chair as the weight of the truth crushed him. Jessica picked up the report, her hands trembling. When she realized what it meant, she turned on him. You're infertile, she shrieked. All this time, you let me believe it was Lola's fault. Her words dissolved into incoherent sobs as Isaac buried his face in his hands. For a moment, the room was silent, save for the sound of Jessica's crying. I straightened my posture, brushing imaginary dust from my sleeve. Well, I'll leave you two to sort this out. You deserve each other, after all. Without waiting for a response, I turned and walked out, my heels clicking against the floor with deliberate finality. Behind me, Isaac's anguished cries followed me down the hallway, but I didn't look back. Chapter 8. Isaac's world crumbled around him like a sandcastle swept away by the tide. Refusing to believe my laboratory report, he rushed out of the hospital that same day, desperate for confirmation. The waiting room at the clinic felt like a slow-motion nightmare. He sat slouched in a plastic chair, his leg bouncing nervously as he clutched the receipt for his test. Sweat dripped from his brow and his normally sharp suit was crumpled and stained from the chaotic day. When the results came in, he tore open the envelope with trembling hands. The words stared back at him, cruel and undeniable frowny face, azoospermia. The one who had truly been infertile all along was him. Isaac's grip on the paper slackened and the results fluttered to the ground. His mind raced, his breaths shallow. He didn't know that I swapped his sperm with the healthy one, so he naturally assumed Jessica's pregnancy was a result of infidelity. Back at the hospital, Jessica lay weak and pale on the bed, unaware of the storm brewing outside her room, but Isaac didn't care. He left without saying a word, stumbling out into the cold evening air, clutching the test results like a man condemned. After packing my belongings, I moved back home from the hotel. Sunlight streamed through the window of my room, glinting off the crystal vase on the nightstand, the one Isaac had given me years ago. For a moment, I considered smashing it, but the anger felt too exhausting to entertain. As I returned my clothes into the closet, a commotion outside caught my attention. Isaac's voice was unmistakable, hoarse and desperate. He pounded on the front door, his fist slamming against the wood, with an urgency that made the butler flinch. "Lola, please open the door, I need to see you." The butler stood firm, his expression cold. "Sir, you are no longer welcome here. Please leave before I call security." Isaac ignored him and shouted, louder, his voice cracking. "Lola, please, I beg you, just let me talk to you." My father appeared in the entryway, his presence imposing as ever. His face was a mask of fury, his jaw set in a way that warned of an impending explosion. Without a word, he opened the door just enough to deliver a resounding slap across Isaac's face. The sound echoed through the foyer like a thunderclap. "You dare to show your face here, after everything you've done?" my father roared, his voice trembling with anger. "Get out of here, you ungrateful bastard. My daughter doesn't want to see you. You've betrayed her trust, humiliated her, and for what? A younger woman." Isaac stumbled back, clutching his cheek, but he didn't leave. His bloodshot eyes were fixed on me as he continued to plead. "Lola, I know I've made mistakes, but please just hear me out. Please, hear me." My father signaled the butler to shut the door, but I stopped him. "Let him in," I said with a sigh, my tone detached. "Lola, you don't need to listen to him," my father insisted, his brows furrowed in concern. "It's fine," I replied, my voice steady. "There's nothing he can say that will change my mind." Isaac staggered inside, his shoulders hunched, looking like a shadow of the confident man he once was. The moment he crossed the threshold, he collapsed to his knees in front of me. "Lola, I'm sorry," he sobbed, his tears falling freely onto the polished floor. "I was blind, I was stupid. I didn't cherish you, and now I've lost everything." As he spoke, he slapped himself hard across the face, the sound sharp and jarring. "I deserve this. I deserve all of it." I looked down at him, unmoved. The man kneeling before me was a stranger, pathetic and broken. "I know I hurt you," Isaac continued, his voice thick with emotion. "I cheated on you. I lied to you. I betrayed you. But please, for the sake of the 10 years we shared, can't you give me one more chance? I swear I'll make it right. I'll do anything to prove myself to you." 10 years. I let the words linger in my mind, the weight of them pressing down on my chest. 10 years of loyalty, of sacrifice, of love, and for what? A man who had taken everything I gave and left me with nothing but betrayal. "Enough," I said coldly, cutting off groveling. Him off. "Stop groveling. Do you think I'm so naive that I'd forgive you just because you're on your knees? You only regret your actions because you've lost everything. If you still had your job, your reputation, and Jessica by your side, would you even be here right now?" Isaac's mouth opened and closed, like a fish out of water, but no words came out. "You're pathetic," I continued, my one voice laced with disdain. "You've lost your job, you can't have children, and to me, you're completely worthless." At me as if I had stabbed him, voice barely audible. "I'll change. I'll be better. Just give me a chance to prove it." His face crumpled and he looked. "Lola, please," he whispered, his "Prove it." "Prove what?" "That you can lie better next time. That you can pretend to love me while stabbing me in the back." But I was done. "You're not here because you love me, Isaac. You're here because you're desperate. And I laughed, a bitter, "Hall,